Hi guys, Tech here, and we're going to do a little bit of a TLDR for the Siege of the Atlas game balance. This is not initial thoughts, but I'm going to kind of cover those. So before we get into this, if you would be so kind, is to consider liking and subscribing. It really does help the channel grow. And let's get into some of the changes. So as far as the two core things that they're focusing on, which is hardcast spells and hit focus bow builds, my initial solution in my head to both of these is you add additional arrows to bow attacks and you add either chain AoE or additional projectiles to hardcast spells so they just feel better. Now, the way grinding gear games went instead, which probably works out about the same, is what I was suggesting because I was saying that with no buffs. What they did instead is buffed a lot of this stuff pretty significantly. So the penalty for going and making them feel good does not get negatively impacted because of the very large number of buffs going into this. The plus side of doing it the way the Grinding Gear Games is doing it instead of the way I was talking about doing it is if you really wanted to focus on bossing, you now just get a much bigger raw number, which for a lot of people is exactly what they're looking for. Kind of my thought process is if you build the additional quality of life stuff into the gem, then one, it feels smoother to level with playing wise, which I think is kind of good for the game. But two, then you could also have like a support that specifically takes some of that power away in return for damage. The way they're doing it is it won't feel as smooth to level with, but it will basically inadvertently do kind of the same thing. So I think the changes overall are fine. I am really happy to see more cast speed because cast speed was kind of limited. I'm not going to go into the skill gems or like the added damage too much. Like, I'm going to just assume this is all going to kind of work out. The other thing I did want to cover on just very briefly is that traps are now significantly better for single target damage, which is a really good thing because traps have always been pretty good at clearing and have kind of struggled with single target damage other than the cooldown traps like Seismic Trap. So I think this is a very good change for the long-term health of traps, and they should feel a little more viable outside of maybe Seismic Trap this league. So Hydrosphere, I think, is a very good change. It does make the Eye of Winter totem build that I was thinking about doing significantly worse. However, I do understand where they're coming from, and I do think it will really help for the long term of the game. The triggering marks may be fine with the support gem. We'll kind of just have to see. I wish they would have gone the same route that they're going with quivers, where they just put the chance to trigger on the normal mod pool, so it's just more readily accessible like they did with +1 arrows. And I think that just kind of fixes the problem inherently, because what they're trying to do is say, oh, well, these high-end items are just better than not having the high-end items. Yes. So give us an access to it at a lower level and put it in the normal mod pool, and now more people have access to it. I think is my initial response to that is like, why not just make it a more available role? But I think this is fine. And who knows, maybe after this league, they'll realize that they could just do both, right? They could put it in the normal mod pool and they can give us the support gem. That way you could kind of go around it either way. And I kind of like that idea a little bit better than this idea. Fortification change is very, very good. Very, very good, and it makes melee significantly better, and it fixes the inherent problems with Fortify. This is a little bit complex, so I wanted to try to cover it simply. So, what you used to do is stack in specific arenas like Shaper and Cirrus, where there's just a ton of trash mobs. What you used to do is you used to stack multiple characters worth of corpses, run through the portal, desecrate, 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 to put the high level corpses into the zone. You don't have to do that anymore. However, it's only a 15% weighting instead of adding 2 of the name of the specter into the mod pool. I'm not sure if this is going to be good outside of self-cast, Detonate Dead. It's still probably going to be fine for that. However, it does have a negative impact to specters, which is if you're a specter character that's using desecrate in case your specter dies. Now you are running into the chance that you may have to desecrate with spell cascade to get the maximum number of chances, which is 9 off of one cast. You may have to do that multiple times to get the specter you're looking for, where previously you could normally do that once to twice and you're almost guaranteed it. So that's a negative impact. Seismic trap changes are honestly fine. Toxic rain changes are honestly fine. I don't understand this change because I feel like if they would have just done this, they could have not had to do all of this. But that's me. It also makes it where Supreme Ego is actually better for Aura bots, which is kind of nice, maybe. This guy is understandable. However, this isn't needed if the damage isn't ludicrous. So maybe the answer is the top end damage is actually just too high. And that's why people went this route and this route. So maybe the solution is that the top end damage in certain areas, like especially deep delve, probably needs to be scaled down a little bit. That's the actual answer. And these kind of things aren't as necessary if the top end wasn't so over the top. This is actually fine. I think it's good to have a in-game boss quiver that is better than rare quivers. It's a good thing to have a in-game boss item better than something that you can craft or something you can pick up off the ground. It's okay for it to be different. And this worries me a little bit. If you really want to fix it, add a frenzy charge mod to rare quivers. So it is not only available here. And I think you kind of fix your own problem. Or add another mechanic like what you get from the quiver into one of the influence modifiers, and that also makes rare quivers better. Like the problem here is not that Voidfletcher is too good, it's that quivers are generally weak. And that's the actual issue. So Voidfletcher is unique, it does something very unique. And the solution is make quivers better, not gut Voidfletcher. Right? Like increase this power level and leave this where it is. It's fine. So I'm hoping that that's the route they're going to go with. I'm not sure that they will. And I hope this is helpful. And, what are your thoughts over reading the patch notes? Do you think that the changes are good? Do you want to see more quality of life in these skills? The other thing that they didn't cover, which I was hoping they were going to cover, is maybe changing like Ancestral Call to be more like Mirage Archer, where it like just summons a guy and he helps you kill stuff. And then it's just good for clear speed. And then it's also good for bossing because then you have you and that guy hitting the boss. Something like that I think would have been really cool. And I was kind of sad that I didn't see that for strike skills because I feel like strike skills are really underutilized right now. And slam skills are basically reliant on that same mechanic. So it would make sense to give strike skills a version of that mechanic so they would see more play as well. But I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you on the next one. Have a great day, Exiles.